Ready?
Mhm.
The call to order the regular Board of Education meeting on November 16, 2023 at 7:01 p.m. at the boardroom of Oak Park Room 4 High School, and ask for roll call, please.
Mr. Brisbane,
Here.
Dr. Maharani, Mr. Arkin,
Here.
Ms. Williams Lee, Dr. Livingston, Mr. Grandhorst,
Here.
Mr. Costi.
Here. I move to enter a closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, and dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on the complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. In discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the board of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.065 ILCS 120/C 21. Roll call, please.
Dr. Maharani, Mr. Arkin,
Here.
Ms. Williams Lee, Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Grandhorst, Dr. Livingston, Mr. Costi.
Here. You okay?
I think so.
You
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. We are resuming our open session, and our first order of business are our introductory reports, starting with student showcase.
All right, we have several of our athletic programs to highlight and celebrate this evening, hence the very packed crowd in front of us. And Athletic Director Nicole Epson is up to talk about 4 teams, if I'm not mistaken. All yours.
All right, I'm gonna call the coaches up so that they can talk through. So we have boys golf represented tonight. We have girls tennis, girls swimming, and girls cross country. So we all have individuals from those 4 sports that we'll be talking about that need state competition. And I won't do it justice, so I'm actually gonna let the coaches give a brief synopsis of their student athletes experiences. So I'm gonna have the 4 coaches come on up.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Billy, I'm the boys varsity golf coach. And I want to start by just saying congratulations to all the students being recognized tonight. I'm very honored and privileged to recognize and congratulate Will Newman, who was the senior who made it downstate, going through a really difficult sectional with some really good golf programs. One of the great things about coaching golf is our program's not that big, so we don't have a lot of players. So you get to know the kids and the families pretty well over the course of 3 years, so 4 years. So it's been really great to watch Will and grow as a golfer, but even more importantly as a human being. So this year he had a really good year. Got better and better. Did what he needed to do to get through the regional and get into the sectional. And then at sectional he shot a 70, which was the best score out of any individual, and we're talking some really great golfers. Made 5 birdies, just a really great round of golf, and made it downstate. Didn't get a good draw because he had to tee off late, got really windy, and I know he doesn't want me to make excuses for him, but he handled it like a champ, and I also really privileged to have him as a teacher. He was in my AP golf class last year. He's also a rock star there, and as much as this was an individual work for him, this was really a great accomplishment for our team and our program, and I'm going to be proud of her. So congrats, Will, and thank you everyone. Will, you want to say?
Will, do you want to say anything? Or okay.
So I know Will from tennis, and Will never wants to say anything, but he does do his speaking with the 6-8 holes. I'm here representing girls tennis tonight, and we had a qualifier in singles in our sectional, which was I hate to screw, but we had the tough sectional too. Where's Bill? A pretty tough sectional created for us by HSA. My friends down in Bloomington. Lucy Stein is a freshman this year, and she qualified through the Hinsdale Central Sectional, which was by all accounts at least a tie for the toughest sectional in the state. She played. The interesting thing about our sectional was that we had 3 with our 4 qualifiers in singles and 4 qualifiers in doubles. And the state tournament, with the draw of 64, only seeds 16 players. Out of our sectional, which qualified 4 singles players, 3 of them got seeded in the top 16. So our sectional was probably just by that measure was the toughest in singles at a minimum. She matched her seed in the state tournament. She won a couple of rounds. She lost to a seeded player, to a 5 through 8 seeded player, and then came back in the backside and got a couple of more rounds. So she had a really solid tournament, finished 9 through 12, and did a great job for her first try at it. So we really appreciate her being on our team, and our team did well too. Unfortunately, we did bump into a couple of pretty solid doubles teams. We had another singles player who lost in the quarters, and we're going to, I'm sure, do a little bit better next year as we're going to host our own sectional. I expect because of as I was talking to Fred Arkin before we started here, our courts are great. And we'd like to, I personally, as Fred knows, and I've been talking to him and Tom, I know a handful of you guys here have been helping me out with this for the past, 50 years or so. And it's really, it's come to fruition. The courts are great. They're perfect. We got an excellent company to do them. Worked out really well. And we are so looking forward to having night tennis next year. So.
Hi, I'm Ashley Raymond and I'm the girls cross country coach. And I'm gonna be talking tonight about two individual qualifiers we had at the state meet. Two wonderful, amazing seniors who have had a huge impact on our team over the last 4 years. They're two people that are definitely leaving the program better off, not just in the record books, but better off as a whole with the team community. So I'm really proud of their growth over the last 4 years. Lenny Starrett was one of our state qualifiers. She qualified for state all 4 years of high school, which is an incredible accomplishment. We had her passive state meet her senior year, and so that's always what you want as a coach is you want them to run their best race, their last race of high school. So she was 71st. And we also had Katie Stab, an individual qualifier. Katie, a little bit about her story. Katie injured her foot last year at sectionals, and it took her until August of this year to start running again. So she took almost a year off of running, and in just that short time, she got herself in shape and mostly in shape, like mentally ready and mentally prepared to run just the last 4 meets of the season. She finished in the top 10 at sectionals, and she was 31st or 36th at the state meet, which to finish 36th in the state meet when everybody else has been competing for over a year is just an incredible accomplishment. And I think it shows a lot about the heart and competitive nature that she races with. So both of them I'm very proud, and we're gonna miss them for over next year.
Thank you. My name is Clyde Lundgren. As you can tell, my voice is on injured reserve. So I'm going to call up Kate Walby to help me out here. Kate was our lone state qualifier on the team. She's junior year, second year in a row that she made it. And yeah, I just asked her to tell her story about her state qualifying event. Go ahead.
I was in one of the last individual events, which was the main event that I was made to qualify for, and in the 100 breaststroke. And I was racing against two other swimmers that were very close to me. We were all within 0.4 of each other. So it was a very close race. And one of them was from Fenwick, who was 0.4 faster than me. I was seated second, and then a fellow O'Prairie sophomore, Haley, was seated third. So like all day, like everyone was hyping up the event, and it was very stressful. Everyone was like, it's gonna be the showdown of the century. Like it's gonna be the best race that you'll ever witness. And like for you to watch, it's probably great. So like stressful for the rest of us to swim. But so there was a lot of adrenaline and stress going into that race. And then we started the race, and I started off behind in the first 50, like which is half the race. I was like a good maybe a second behind her, so I was getting a little worried about it. But we trained the back 50, and I was able to catch up in I touched probably either right ahead or right behind her in that last 25, like last length, and was able to out touch her by 0.12. So we were 0.12 away from each other. So, yeah.
Well, it's super proud of the accomplishment and kind of overcoming that pressure. I don't know if you've competed in sports, but there's nobody to pass the ball to or nobody to pass you the ball. Like team sports, you can't really hide in an individual sport like that. So super proud of how she handled the pressure of the situation and representing herself and the team. And couldn't be more proud of her. So Kate, congratulations.
So this is not our complete list of all athletes who have qualified for state, but some are having their banquets tonight, so they will be joining us in the next 2 board meetings. So more fun to come, and thank you guys for your continued support. And as you can see, our efforts in both facilities and resources have paid off and will continue to pay off. So thank you.
We also have one additional student showcase tonight, and Dr. Peter Renza is coming up to introduce an incredibly special honor.
I'm incredibly honored to be bringing forward Anya Herman, who is a tremendous advocate in our building and is now nationally recognized as an advocate. And here to honor her further is History Division Head Amy Hill and History Teacher Lisa Faulkner. And of course, star Anya Herman. I have the privilege tonight of introducing Senior Anya Herman, who was honored at the White House's Girls Leading Change celebration. I nominated Anya because she has been an exceptional advocate for access and inclusion, as she has channeled her own the accessibility issues she has faced into a passion to inform the world. Anya's dedication and advocacy extends throughout our community, including right here at OPRF, where she has been working to get easier and more efficient access to classrooms for people with disabilities, including the installation of automatic door buttons and magnets for hallway doors. She also served as a student representative for the revision of the Special Education Department's strategic plan. In addition to direct advocacy, Anya is an accomplished public speaker and writer on the topic of equity, disability rights, and inclusion. She's been featured in publications both far and wide, including the HuffPost, Teen Vogue, and our own Wednesday Journal, where she called for OPRF to recognize, including Anya here, disability as an identity and to include it in our equity conversation. Most recently, Anya has been a researcher and has published the results of a national study about school preparedness for students with disabilities related to gun violence. She co-authored a white paper that critiqued how the safety of students with disabilities is too often ignored in school shooting plans and responses. The same paper that advocated for congressional policy solutions to remedy the problem. I would like to thank the board for recognizing Anya tonight, but I know that Anya is not working on these issues to get personal recognition, whether it's from the White House or here from the local school board. I invite us today to celebrate not only the recognition Anya received from the White House, but also her activism and advocacy. She is eager for others to read and engage with her research and policy suggestions, which I encourage us all to do. I hope we can all heed Anya's call to make OPRF much safer and more inclusive and accessible for all, especially for students with disabilities. Toward this end, as we push ahead into Imagine OPRF Phase 2, I hope that we can keep ADA compliance front and center and go above and beyond what is required to become a model that other school districts can strive to become. We can further assess whether we are providing reasonable, safe, and efficient access to building and facilities to students with disabilities, not only in the day-to-day functions of our school, but also in cases of emergency, such as in the case of fire or an active threat to the safety of students at OPRF. We can evaluate whether we have a process for offering reasonable modifications that allow students with disabilities to meaningfully participate in public events. So I now want to invite Anya. She's going to come talk a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we have a microphone problem. Yeah, because I can't.
Yeah,
just come over this. Thank you. Here, I don't have to work on my microphone. Hi, thank you all for being here and thank you to Ms. Faulkner for that lovely introduction. It's an honor to be here tonight and I have just been asked to come and share a little bit more about my experience with the White House and just a little bit more about what this organization means to me as a transfer school board. So as I was thinking about what I wanted to say, guys, I have to shout out the Opera History Department because without their training, I would not have gotten here. And I would not have won the White House Award if Ms. Faulkner had not been such an amazing advocate and someone on my team to honor nominate me. Actually, all 15 of us honorees were invited to sit in a briefing with the head of the White House Gender Policy Council. And going into that meeting, I was so nervous because that is one of the most incredible female politicians and leaders that this country has to benefit from. And it was because of my training from the history department and the critical thinking skills that go on drilled into us and all of your DQs that I really was able to learn so much from the experience and get a lot out of it. So thank you to the history department, both Ms. Faulkner and Ms. Hill. Y'all are the best. I would also just like to say a little bit more about what the recognition from the school board means. So I'm a senior, which means I am sadly going to be leaving O'Hara come this spring. But all of the advocacy I've been doing, even since before freshman year, like Ms. Faulkner so eloquently put it, and I'm not gonna do it like you did, but
You'll do it better.
it hasn't been just for me. Because I know that when I leave, there's going to be another disabled kid that wants to come, that is coming to O'Hara. They are preparing now. They are graduating 8th grade. They're getting ready to start their Husky journey. And so all of my work in this building has really just been trying to make life just a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier for them so that they can navigate their high school journey without having to face the obstacles that I did. And I really, even when I'm not here to come and speak to you, I really hope that you guys listen to what Ms. Faulkner enumerated access issues, but also keep in mind that inclusion and advocacy should be top of mind. It's not an issue that ends when I end, it's an issue for all Huskies, and as O'Hara celebrates its 150th and hopefully 150 more anniversaries, we need to make sure that access and inclusion and equity are prioritized for all future Huskies. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Student Council Liaison report.
Hello, good evening. So I just wanted to start off by saying that having door 10 being open has been so good for students.
You mentioned it here first.
Yes, everybody loves it. I personally use it now, so I love it. Especially with the colder times coming, everyone's very happy to not be walking in cold air and being able to get inside quickly. It also reduced time for me personally to get to class, so I don't have to worry about being a couple minutes late and missing out on some class time, so that's been really nice. Moving on to the Tradition of Excellence banquet, it went really, really well. It was super fun. Thank you to Dr. Johnson for putting on the field lights. That was such a cool thing. Everybody loved it. It was really pretty. It was also really nice to get to know Sam Hunt and Ms. Fielli before actually having to interview them and talk about them on stage, and just to get to know them a little bit better and like their personalities, because that was our first time meeting them. So it was really nice. Camila Forbes wasn't able to be there, but thankfully she met with us on Zoom and we were able to interview her and show that actually at the assembly, so she was still able to be honored in front of all of the students and be present like in the assembly. So that was really nice of her to meet with us quickly last minute. As for the actual assembly, I had a lot of fun doing it. I know a lot of students and staff enjoyed watching it because we did it a little bit differently this year. We did it in like a talk show style. So it was a little bit more casual. It's definitely more comfortable for the honorees and me and the officers to speak in front of everyone, because that is like a big thing to do.
So it was a really fun thing to do, and I'm really glad that it was really enjoyed by my peers and staff, and I hope we can do it next year. Thank you.
Okay, for the superintendent's announcements here, we have several announcements, several accolades to share out. First, thank you to all who submitted volunteer hours for our Assessment Centennial Challenge. This is our effort, as many of you know, for Huskies and Husky supporters around the world to log 150,000 hours of service between July 1, 23 and June 30, 24. This week, we reached 20% of the goal with 30,028 hours. If you've done any type of service work for any organization or individual this school year, please go to our website and a quick link called Log Volunteer Hours. Board members, all of the hours you're devoting to this should count, but only if you log them. Congratulations to English teacher Brendan Lee, the first recipient of the Dean Team Award. Our deans are giving this monthly award to faculty members who demonstrate exceptional support for students by fostering a positive climate and culture. Mr. Lee was selected for dedicating countless hours outside of regular class time to support students and for being a regular presence in the hallways during absent periods to provide assistance to both students and staff. Congratulations, Brendan. Congratulations also to girls swimmer Katie Walby, who competed at the state meet in the 100-meter breaststroke. We just saw Katie. We had 4 students as well selected to the Illinois High School Theater Festival All-State 2024 Company of She Kills Monsters. That's in quotes, the title of the production. Kudos to Mia Wessler, Lauren Gullo, Robert Johnson, and Saffron Kinney. Congratulations to the following senior band, jazz, and orchestra members who have earned spots for the 23-24 Illinois Music Education Association Festival. Elizabeth Bell, Ray Frerick, Connor Cool, Brooke Lingenfelter, Drew Lingenfelter, Henry Lloyd, Daniel Patty, Ilya Wade Henry, Abe Karansky, Jobin Lambert, Charlie Peterson, Kevin Cabrera, Louis Morelli, Jude Peterson, Brett Linzing, Owen Rutchick, Benjamin Drucker, and Linnea Mann. We also have chorus and vocal jazz students who were chosen to participate at INEA. Bravo to Emily Churchhouse, Zaria Larnell, Nora Ludochi, Ava Lowell, Bella Lubelchik, Alex Medina, Sammy Mitzenmacher, Ruby O'Shaughnessy, Trevor Shonen, Tate Van Dynen, and Mariah Zeb Quinones, and many more. And congratulations also to the Marching Huskies who won first place, as well as Beth Auxiliary and Outstanding General Effect at the Downers Grove South Marching Mustangs Music Bowl. And last but not least, congratulations to the students who received awards at the annual Chicagoland 4x5 Art Exhibition, a unique juried exhibit hosted by the Oswego High School Visual Arts Department. Among hundreds of submissions, the following Huskies received top honors: Lydia Missy, Claire Lyons, Luke Fugere, Luke Luzara, Amelia Honkeri, Elizabeth Smith, Bennett Parker, and Henry Stickady. Congratulations to all Huskies. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Lisa? Where?
Right before you submitted, one was off.
Thank you. Okay. Our next segment is our employee recognition segment. Today we are pleased to continue our employee recognition program, recognition for the 2023-24 school year. The employee recognition is sponsored by the Oak Park Bank, a Wintrust Community Bank. So, first, we would like to congratulate Kelly Diaz, who was selected as the Teacher of the Month. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Kelly. In addition to being a division leader, Kelly's exceptional work extends to organizing the first Hispanic Latinx Professional Day and with Aspira, the Latino Cultural Week. She ensured that the Hispanic Latino community in OPRF was being celebrated with great honor throughout Hispanic Heritage Month. Kelly is a ray of sunshine. Her compassion and kindness, evident in her creative approaching to teaching, shows her genuine care for all students. So congratulations again, Ms. Kelly.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz. For those who don't know me, I teach standards here at OPR. I'm a TCP leader. I also am the sponsor of the Aspira Club, which is the Latino Leadership Club at the school. And I'm sure you want to things, but I can't think of it. I've been here for 18 years. And I think back to the 21-year-old me who was hired here. And I can't help but think of Claudia Sabu, who's my division head, who hired me. And when she called me, I was like, wait, me? I got the job at OPRF. And since then, Claudia's had just so much trust and confidence in me and respect. And I have tried to basically replicate that with my students because she always, I always wanted to do the best here. And I think that I try to replicate that and give that to my students where they feel the same way. I love working at OPRF and I feel honored to be Teacher of the Month because there are so many good teachers at this school. So thank you.
You have to have a photo up here.
Oh, okay.
This is yours.
I did my hair.
You know, so did I. Me too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, next, all right. And now I would like to extend congratulations to our November Employee of the Month, Veronica Pitlick. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Correct.
All right. Good. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Veronica, and I quote, Veronica displays outstanding dedication, high standards, and unwavering commitment to our students and the entire school community. She has a remarkable level of enthusiasm and dedication and does her work with a genuine smile and warmth felt by our students no matter how challenging they may be. Veronica clearly and firmly communicates her expectations to students. She refuses to accept any complaints or excuses and encourages students to comply with the rules. Congratulations again, Veronica. Is there anything you would like to say to us?
I'm sincerely humbled to accept this award. My work ethic and attention to detail has made me recognizable to you and to the people that nominated me. I will continue to always do my best and always have the smile on my face because it's the kids that I see every day that come here without having that at home. And sometimes I see them sleepy and, just in a bad place. And if I can get them to smile how I'm smiling, makes my day, and I will continue to be here, part of the Husky OPRF group until I'm old. Until
That was my favorite moment in board meetings all year.
Memorable. You'll never forget me.
Okay.
Oh my God, I'm completely found that.
Next, I would like to extend congratulations to our volunteer of the month, Bob Wozniak. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Bob. Bob has been a leader on the Husky Booster Club Events Committee, organizing social and fundraising events such as bingo and trivia night that help build a sense of community for parents and staff at OPRF High School. Due to Bob's amazing efforts, the Husky Booster Club was able to raise $40,000 each of the past 2 years. Many teachers, activities, and sports benefit from all of the appropriations. Congratulations, Bob. Is there anything you would like to say?
I do not have a prepared speech. I'll just say that for the Husky Booster Club, on behalf of the Husky Booster Club, we try to have a lot of fun and do good for the school in terms of the academics, the arts, and athletics. And for me, just speaking personally for a minute, I went to a small public high school in Michigan, and we had a booster club, but we thought of it as just for sports. I mean, they supported our athletic teams. We do a lot more. I think we take great pride in trying to be as even as we can. There's some years last year, I don't think we gave much at all to the athletic programs. It was mostly academic and arts. Other years it's been different when we try to assess the requests, as a team, and we have fun doing it. And it's an honor to be a part of the group. We appreciate the support of the board. I'm grateful for receiving this award. My daughter is a 2023 graduate who, if I can paraphrase LeBron James, she took her talents and my money to the University of California, Santa Barbara. She seems to be thriving there, which is, it says a lot about OPRF. Both of my kids, my son is a junior currently, have had great experiences here. And so I'm grateful and honored to be able to help in a little way, the way that the Husky Booster Club does. So appreciate this award and thank you very much.
All right.
Of course, yeah, good to see you. Thanks very much. Guys, great. Good to thank for your awesome. Take care, bro. Excellent. Thanks very much.
I'd like to recognize Eric Renteria, who was selected as the substitute teacher of the month. So here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Eric. Eric is always positive and deserves to be recognized for his efforts throughout his time here. Not many substitutes go out of their way to impact students, but Eric has been doing that for me since I was a freshman. States a junior nominator. Congratulations, Eric. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I would just like to say that not only do I appreciate OPRF as an employee now, but as a student, I graduated here in 2016, so I'm an alum too. I appreciate not only the staff, but also especially the students that I learn from every single day that I come in here. I know as a sub, we're expected to teach everything, but there's times where I walk into the classroom and those kids are so wonderful and they help me even understand some of the materials. I could teach other kids in the future as well. So I appreciate everyone in this building and thank you so much.
Eric and I get a picture together.
Yes.
Eric was my student twice, and then I did Vespita when he was a student here. And we didn't nominate each other. Thank you.
So we're pleased to continue our new sustainability recognition program again this month. Starting the school year, we'll recognize 2 sustainability champions, 1 student and 1 employee for their exemplary efforts in environmental sustainability. The student sustainability champion for November is Malcolm Mitchell Trelawney.
Malcolm here? Yeah. Excellent. Well done. Oh, yeah, tell me, it's so great about you. So here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Malcolm. Malcolm's dedication to environmental stewardship is demonstrated by his active participation in Thatcher Woods cleanup events and his leadership in organizing a student litter collection day along the Des Plaines River, as well as spearheading a beach cleanup at Oak Street Beach. Malcolm consistently supports others' projects and humbly interacts with many individuals, encouraging them to engage more in conversations about sustainability. Congratulations again, Malcolm. Is there anything you'd like to say?
So I mean, before I say anything of like real value or like sentiment, I just want to like sort of give like the setting for how I found out I got this award. So I was running off of maybe 4 hours of sleep after studying for a psych test, and I was actually in the middle of that psych test when the group walked in of staff and students to sort of give me this award. So initially, I was very like disheveled and confused at like why it was me that was receiving this. And then later, after thinking about it more, I mean, that question still kind of arose, like, why me? Because to me, like what I've done and what you've just said, and sort of the reasons I've like been nominated for this award, they seem kind of like the bare minimum. Like this is stuff that I think that shouldn't be sort of rewarded, but rather like expected, you know? And so I don't feel like the need to be rewarded. And I think that part of that like feeling is sort of me thinking towards or in the future, right? So obviously, as of now, that is something that is deserving of reward. But I think as this sort of championship and this award sort of progresses and more students receive it, I think this is something that can become like a driving factor or something that people will need to do, like amazing, incredible things to receive as a school like works toward sustainability. That's it.
Got it. You also have a reusable, sustainable water. Thank you.
Okay. And congratulations are also in order for Natalie Hornick as our faculty sustainability champion. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Natalie. Natalie is a stalwart steward of the environment through her daily reminders to her students about throwing out garbage in the garbage bin and recycling in the recycling bin. Natalie earns her reputation as an environmental advocate through her consistent efforts to demonstrate that even the smallest actions can contribute to significantly to sustainability. Congratulations again, Natalie. Is there something you'd like to say?
She's not here.
She is not here. Okay. Very good. That concludes our recognition segment. And we now will move to public comment.
I have no in person, no public comment via Zoom, nor do I have any written minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. Wait 1 second, and then we will move into our consent.
It's meeting the RF recognition meeting.
Yes, no, it's
Good stuff.
it's very exciting.
Yes.
We adjourn now.
Was that a motion? Or not? Okay. We move to our consent agenda, and are there any consent items that board members would like to pull for further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I move to approve the consent items as follows. A, approval of open and closed minutes of October 26th and November 2nd, 2023. The declaration that the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of February 2022 be destroyed, and that the closed session minutes of January 1, 1986 through October 26, 2023 shall be closed except for the redacted closed sessions of October 4 and December 13 and 21, 1983, and January 14, 23, and 28, 1984. Approval of the personnel recommendations, including no hires, transfers, resignations, leaves of absence, retirements, and releases. To accept with gratitude the donation from Mr. Gil Herman, a donation of $1,000 to the Oak Park and River Forest High School Incubator Program. Approval of the October and November 2023 check disbursements and financial resolutions, including the payroll resolutions for December 2023. Approval of the September 2023 Treasurer's Report is presented. Approval of the September 2023 Financial Report as presented. Approval of an estimated levy for 2023 in the amount of $81,196,400, which represents a 4.36% increase over the prior year's extension. To authorize a public hearing to be held concerning proposed levy on December 21st, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. and to authorize publication of the enclosed legal notice in the local newspaper at least 7 days, but not more than 14 days prior to the date of the public hearing. And H, approval of the E2 services contract for the cost of $204,000 per year.
Second.
May I please have a roll call?
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Ms. Williams Lee, Dr. Livingston, Dr. Maharaj.
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane.
Yes.
Mr. Arkin.
Yes.
And Mr. Costa.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes, and we move to our action items. And we have one action item today. So I move to approve the Verigy construction contract not to exceed $165,000.
Second.
And are there questions or discussion?
We have some information we would like to share.
Okay.
We also have representatives from Verigy here as well, to share some of that information and answer whatever questions the board might have. So I'm going to turn it over to our guest here. Just before I do so, let me say that this item is obviously related to priority 4 of our strategic plan, district policies 460 and 470, as well as, even though they're not numbered and totally nailed down yet, it is related to the board goal, the draft goal to effectively manage student focused, need-based and equitable facilities expansion and maintenance programming under the sustainability category. So with that in mind, I think Tony, I'll turn it over to you and we can get started. So go ahead.
Sure. I will just kind of set the stage as a reminder that this is really part 1 of a several part or step process to get to our final guaranteed energy savings contract for geothermal work. Because we are at the in an interesting position where we need to do a field test or with a test well to get our well field drawn, that will kind of move us from kind of the abductive reasoning of our best estimate of what we can do to some sound numbers in terms of what a real well field can produce. We moved away from a letter of intent to an actual contract for this work. And then, it also was clear that geothermal has been a topic of conversation for a while here at OPRF, but we have some new board members who were not part of that initial conversation. So our future partners here in Verigy have come out and will talk us through a little bit about geothermal and why it will help us connect to our sustainability goals as a district.
Great. Well, good evening, and thanks for allowing us to come in and share a little information about Verigy, some background on our company, and then give you a little information on geothermal and why that's become a choice for a lot of districts that we work with. Slide here. So this first slide here really is an introduction of some of the key members of our team that would be involved in this project. There's many more beyond this team, but with me today, of course, is myself. My name is Michelle James, and I'm the lead account manager. I work primarily in Northern Illinois with K-12 school districts. been with the company for about 15 years. My background is mechanical engineering. Also with me is Gordon Schweitzer. Gordon is another account executive that works with a lot of K-12 school districts in Illinois. He has a strong background in sustainability, so he's part of the team as well for the school district. Also not here tonight, but part of our team, Bill Buccio is one of our senior engineers, geothermal engineers. Josh Hanoi is actually our operations manager in the Midwest, who supports our project management and site superintendent's team to make sure that we've got the support we need. And also Dr. Preston Williams, who's one of our education consultants, who's who's a retired superintendent, provides a very good perspective when we work with our K-12 clients. So again, these are just some of our key members that be part of our project. As the administration mentioned, we have been through the RFP process to select a vendor. And primarily these are the goals that we have identified through that process, which was to bring a partner in that can really provide one component of the geothermal system, which is the well field design. And so that is what we would be part of helping. And as we understand it, you've got an existing partner, architect and engineer that would be designing basically it's the components on the interior of the building that also work in conjunction with the geothermal system. So of course, we're also going to be involved with securing additional funding. As many of you may know right now, there's some additional federal money out there for these types of projects, which actually make this much more viable in the past than it has been. We'll talk a little bit more about that with the slides. And then also to find a partner that can help with the sustainability plan that you've already started here in the district. And so in addition to that, the end all goal, of course, is to improve the learning environment for students, staff, and their community. So this next slide is a little hard to see, but it's really just to provide a background on our company. Verity's been working with K-12 clients for over 25 years now. Basically, we're comprised of in-house engineers, in-house construction developers, managers, and site superintendents, and work on turnkey projects. So that means we do the design and then we do the implementation as well. We also guarantee those projects. So with that would include a guaranteed upfront price and then guaranteed energy savings. And so with that, we do a lot of different projects that include construction, energy efficiency projects, renewable energy projects such as geothermal that we're talking about tonight, solar, battery storage, things like that. But again, specifically tonight, we're here potentially with a partner to look at geothermal and the well field. So again, as I mentioned, we have in-house engineers and project managers, and we've designed over 100 different geothermal systems here in the Midwest. We've got a lot of experience with what to do and what not to do when you design these systems, which we've actually had to come in and redesign some geothermal systems that were not working properly. So it is something that needs to be paid attention to, and specifically looking at the well field. And we've been very successful at that. We've been growing, like I mentioned, for over 25 years, and the majority of our business, over 70% actually, is from repeat customers and referrals. So one of the first things that we do when we're looking at these types of projects is we want to understand how the building is operating from an energy standpoint. And so we typically gather utility bills, both gas and electric bills, and then we look at the building in terms of energy use intensity, and that's kBTU per square foot. And it's a way again for us to understand how this building is operating. Just to give you a sense, an average school district in Illinois is typically 7 kBTU per square foot. And if any of you are familiar with an Energy Star certified building, if you're 51 or lower, you'd be considered an Energy Star certified building. So what this graph actually shows is in red is where the high school sits right now in kBTU per square foot, which is roughly about 55. So you're better than average, which is great. And you're close to an Energy Star certified building. What we're also showing here is that there's a number of different districts where we've done similar projects that could have a lot of different energy conservation measures. But what we've tried to show you here was the different types of HVAC systems in the different colors, and geothermal, which is generally one of the most energy efficient HVAC systems out here, is typically going to be somewhere between the 30 and 35 kBTU per square foot or energy use intensity. And so we understand the goal is to be around 35, which is set by our sustainability committee. for EUI, and so we believe we can get there with a long-term geothermal project in mind. There are a lot of other considerations that you need to look at, and we would certainly help along with your existing construction team, but we just wanted to kind of give you a sense of where you sit right now and why we think there's an opportunity for savings.
What's yellow and what's blue?
Sure.
Please.
So typically on here, it's going to vary, and yellow is going to be more of your packaged rooftop systems. Is that correct?
Correct.
The packaged rooftop systems, and we typically actually show on there all the different systems. Your two pipe systems are going to be like the blue, which is some of the longer, the higher KBTU per square foot. So the two pipe systems are typically like your boiler systems and chiller systems, which basically you would have to like do a turnover per season. Whereas a 4-pipe system, you can actually have simultaneous heating and cooling all year round. And so some of the more efficient systems are going to be your 4-pipe systems with boiler chillers, whereas a 2-pipe is going to be less efficient. Rooftops, depending on some of the other systems you have in the building, can be a little bit less efficient as well. So those are probably going to be some of the ones that are in yellow that are on higher KBTU per square foot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering, if this difference that we're seeing here, is it primarily due to the types of systems? It's not because our school has higher energy needs, because we're using more technology, more, I just.
It's a really good question, and to be fair, there's a lot of different factors that can play into this. And again, because we were brought in specifically to look at the geothermal, we've not had a chance to really dig into all the different variables. But you're right, it could be your temperature control systems, how they're set up. It could be your building envelope. It could be lighting. There's a lot of various factors that play into that. And certainly a building of this size is going to have more energy needs. So the next slide here really just kind of illustrates all the different components in the geothermal heating and cooling system. So essentially, a geothermal system is using the thermal properties of the earth to heat and cool in place of things like a chiller, like a boiler. They're using the well field, which you can see here in the illustration for the building. So essentially, you have those pipes that's running water through the pipes and then back into the building into individual terminal units or typically heat pump units. Those units can be in the ceiling, they can be floor mounted units. That's going to be something that takes place in the design portion of the building, determining what makes sense. Some of them can be in penthouses or on the roof as well. We also have a map here that actually shows you an aerial shot of the two locations that we're looking at for designing the well field itself. And we're trying to maximize the number of boulders that we can fit. We're looking at a couple different locations, the existing track area, some other areas next to the building, the football field area. We've got a lot of design work to do around various obstructions. So the goal essentially is for us to maximize the design of the well field to meet the requirements that have been set forth by your design team. So that's what we're looking at right now. And it's a combination of looking again at the obstructions and the condition of the ground with the connectivity test that we have planned for tentatively for Thanksgiving. And so once we have that information, we'll be able to fully design what that well field looks like and then provide that information so that your design team can continue designing the rest of the geothermal system. And then I'm hand it over to Gordon right now. He's going to give you a little bit more information on how the system itself works.
Sure. Do want to say real quick, really applaud the board and the school district for having sustainability awards. I was kind of a nerdy high school kid with braces and pimples and really involved in sustainability and kind of getting elevated to the board and being acknowledged and encouraged. It's pretty neat. So certainly something that will impact a lot of students and make a lasting impact. I got a few boring slides here. Essentially, the idea of geothermal is that we're taking heat out of the ground in the wintertime. Renewable source and putting that inside the building. Then on the flip side, in the summertime, we're taking heat out of the building and putting it almost as a battery into the earth to use it following winter. So the idea is that that heat pump is just moving heat from one spot to another, and then using that battery of the earth to kind of store and then reuse that energy. Overall geothermal system benefits, as Michelle pointed out in the chart, which include a lot of different types of schools, but whether it's a high school, an elementary, middle school, it's typically shown to be the most energy efficient type of system. What is neat about geothermal is it's very low maintenance. These are vertical loops, as you see in the graphic there. They don't create any noise. They're underground using this footprint that you have. So from a local standpoint, from a neighborly standpoint, you won't have those noise pollution issues you may have with a lot of cooling tower or rooftop unit. You can shrink those units and put that tonnage into the ground. Well fields last 50+ years. We've got about 500 wells at Lakeland College down in Mattoon, and that's been since going on 25 years now, and we have not had any issues with those wells. Overall system life cycle, all the heat pumps will be inside and all the well field will be underground, so you won't have the wear and tear of the elements and the snow, just the cold weather on all this equipment, so it'll last longer. So whereas a typical HVAC equipment you may replace every 15-20 years, the geothermal will last multiple lifespans. So you can reuse that geothermal system for multiple iterations of HVAC equipment. Carbon footprint, that's really important deal, and then geothermal will reduce both the heating and cooling needs, so your electricity and your gas usage, which are really important. One thing that is neat as the campus evolves, geothermal is easy to tack onto, so the well system can be expanded as your heat pump system grows within the high school here. One key part that Michelle mentioned is why a lot of school districts across the country and in Illinois are doing geothermal is the Inflation Reduction Act. This is a major change in the tax code, which has been passed, which applies to solar, but also geothermal, is that it's a direct pay reimbursement. So at least 30%, we project 40% of the geothermal funds will be returned directly to the district, similar to how people file taxes. But the tax code change allows nonprofits, municipalities, school districts to take advantage of that direct pay reimbursement. So for example, if we energized the system or completed it next year, and it was turned on, energized as part of the project, the following year we would help the district submit for that reimbursement, and those funds would be directly deposited back into the district for other needs. Which is pretty neat. This is a driver for a lot of geothermal projects. Customers do without this, but this is something that's elevating the amount of projects that are done these days.
Right. Yeah, and that's 30% is the minimum, no matter what you're doing, and then beyond that, there's some additional adders that were mentioned. So a lot of our projects we're looking at American made, and so 10% is what we're factoring in here as well. And so that would be for the well filling, we could certainly help the construction team on the portion on the interior as well. So there's much taxes that good.
All right, so here's kind of a rough timeline of kind of where we're at, where we hope to be. Tonight presenting the letter of intent, which allows us to complete the well field over Thanksgiving, and then to kind of, as Tony mentioned, push from conceptual to firm budgets that we can provide you as soon as we get the design complete. Productivity testing is essentially the process of testing the well field and the ground here to really quantify how much energy can be stored in the ground. Doing the preliminary design budget review hopefully next week. December, final testing results. It takes a few weeks to do that well field test, get the results, then generate a conductivity report. We hope to finalize project pricing in December, January. Hope to have that contract approval potentially in December, January. Implement hopefully in the summer. Final completion TBD based on the amount of wells that we provide. And this is kind of a living schedule. So as we certainly move along, we'll keep Dr. Johnson and Tony and the team the rest of the schedule. But that's we're moving quickly, hopefully, with the Inflation Reduction Act. There's certainly a lot of popularity in that program, and the quicker we can build the wells, the quicker the district will have access to those funds and ensure that they receive the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, I think some of the reason for the TBD on the final completion again has to do with we don't know yet for sure where the wells are going to be. We're looking at a couple of different locations, which can greatly, depending on where they go, impact the schedule. So that's some of the reasoning for not having a set time on that.
Can I just ask you to clarify one thing based on this you just made, so. The driver you just suggested to get the project done as quickly as possible is to get the return, right, the funds. However, the whole system has to be operational, correct?
Correct, it
You have to
does.
realize that, so we're really dependent on the completion of project 2, which would be, the summer of 26.
Correct. And this is really just one of the last slides that we have here. Of course, geothermal well field is really the primary focus right now, and during the RFP process, we just identified some other areas that we could certainly help the district with to help reach our sustainability goals, which include some solar, various carports or rooftop arrays, EV charging, demand management as well, which in a lot of cases can bring some additional energy cost savings back to the district. So just an area that we've had a lot of experience with, helping our clients, and we certainly help the district as well. So we appreciate the time this evening. Meet with the board and answering questions.
I have questions. Thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate you being here. And I, as a newer board member, Tony knows that I still getting my arms wrapped around geothermal. I spent this last week going down multiple rabbit holes, learning way too much about technology. I still am kind of uncertain about how this project and this first test well connects to project 2. And I'm uncertain about sort of what the end game is. I understand that we are trying to drill a test well, and then depending on the results of that, there may be a range of solutions that we apply to project 2, right? Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The best way to explain it is that right now, our architects are drawing the mechanical, the heating and cooling systems inside of the project 2 area to be heated and cooled by a geothermal well field. So they're not having a gas boiler in the basement or something like that, or in a boiler room spacing. And that's also leading to, no pun intended, our LEED certification is heavily involved in that. If we were to do this from I don't want to say more traditional, but from a less technological manner, we'd have a gas boiler, we'd be looking at chillers or rooftop units to cool. So it's where that energy is pulled from, is how this feeds into it. What the test well does is when they drill that well, it tells us how conducive our soil is to produce the well field. So some soil, you have to put the wells 20 feet apart so they don't disrupt each other. Some it's 25. We are hopeful that ours can be 15 feet apart space, which would let us put more wells and produce more energy in a smaller footprint of area. And once we know, the other thing we get from that too is, can you go 300 foot deep? Can you go 500 foot deep? Can you go a little bit further? So it gives us, this test well will give us all of that information in terms of how deep we can go, how spaced out the each individual well has to be. So then we know the size of the footprint of the well field and what it can produce out. The goal has been to get to at least 500 tons of production, which would be 100% of the cooling of the project 2 area, and then 60% of the heating would come from the geothermal field. We really just won't be able to get to all of those exact numbers and totals and design until we know what is possible out of the land that we have.
So is the goal to provide 100% of the heating and 60% cooling of the new project 2 space? Or is that just like within the range of possibility and we might exceed that?
I would say that is the bare minimum goal that we are aiming for. We are not looking to do any less.
Yeah, can I also want to tee up our folks from Vergy here because we've had some conversations, well, they're not resolved, right? Because of the fact that Tony talked about the square footage and the exact location of the well field on our property. And your question requires some knowledge of that. Included in the packet here is a phased plan for geothermal that was first brought to the board a year ago. That suggests areas, it by no means is a in-stone strategic approach to it. It's saying these are available areas for us that are even themselves, you know, a little bit flexible. So do you want to add to that at all, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that depending on where we actually put the well field is gonna limit how much capacity we can get. And as Tony mentioned, 500 is the maximum goal in project 2 that the district can achieve right now, given the mechanical equipment that you're upgrading within the building. I think 300 tons maybe is the minimum that actually can make this work right now. So we've got to look at different areas that don't have as many issues or obstructions in terms of utilities, drainage and other things to see how we can get as much capacity to meet those goals for project 2 right now. And so we've actually, you know, had a head start into doing that right now. And we were able to get some information on a connectivity test that was done fairly close to the district. But again, for us to do our final design, we have to actually do our connectivity test in the location that we put the well field. But it will determine how much capacity we can get, which will also determine exactly where we're going to actually put these well fields. Of course, the well field.
Let's assume that the test well goes well, and that we proceed with this, and that we're able to drill 15 feet apart, and they're 500-foot wells, and it's magic. What's our capital expense? What's our investment?
That we have not gotten to that step. That's really the next step after this test well is once they have their well field designed, then we get the budget of what that well field costs. We would anticipate somewhere, but it's going to be a big ballpark right now. So when I say this, I would anticipate, depending on the location of the well field, in the neighborhood of a $3 to $4 million expense. But that would be something that then we'd have to look at how do we fund it, and that's part of the next conversation. And I would anticipate that would be a combination of district resources, state funding, the grant rebates, and what we do spend, we know we would be eligible for the 30 to 40% rebates to come back, and all of that. Once we have our budget, then that's where we get to work and say, okay, what is available to then finance the project and move forward.
And while we're on that, just a question on the Inflation Reduction Act rebate. That's kind of a zero sum game, right? When those funds are depleted, then we're out of luck. So we're better off moving ahead with this sooner rather than later and applying for those funds.
Right, there's no certainty as to how long they'll be around.
Yeah.
Correct.
And what's your guess? Are they going to be around in 2026?
So far, that's what we believe. Yeah.
3 years out.
Yeah.
It's really hard to predict if they will be around. It's a federal program. We'll see how things change in November potentially.
Exactly.
It's earmarked. This tax credit program has been around since 2005. Been really a core part of the solar program, renewable energy. So it's popular and propelling a lot of solar PV, but that's out of our control, to be honest. But
I agree. I mean, it makes sense that that's causing a lot of people to act right now. But we have a longer term project that we're embarking on. I have some safety questions for you that I'm sure some parents in our community are going to ask. Maybe not a lot, but some will. Looking at the FGM schematics of where the well fields might be located, I assume that since we have limited ability to place wells, there's going to be, some wells would probably be where FGM is suggesting, which is on the football field and also on our new track and field. So basically just all of the area to the west of the school building, right? That's the possible area for wells to be done.
Yeah, it might be helpful to narrow that down a little bit. Do you feel comfortable doing that, or should I jump in there?
I mean, right now, what we're looking at is strictly the football field and then the track area, one portion of the track area.
Yeah, and let's clarify what we're talking about, with one portion of the track area, lest anybody think that we're going to tear up the track that isn't even complete yet. Of course, that's not the case. We're talking about the area east of the track that has just been installed. West of the mall and a lot of utility lines that run along that mall, underground. And so it's really that area that's highlighted in the first phase of that document that you're referencing, okay? So
the football field, are we really talking the field?
If we aren't able to get the tonnage out of the area I just described, again, east of the track, the area west of the mall, then we would need to think about the viability of the project and the potential of the stadium field and utilizing that square footage right there. That was always listed as the phase 2 for that plan before. And it was phased at that point, not because it wasn't an incredibly promising area to look at for geothermal, but because it was simply not up to be returfed. It was returfed, I believe, the second summer that I worked in the district, which would have been in the summer of 2018. That should be verified. I know we've looked at that in the past, just not incredibly recently. And so we are looking right now at, by the end of this project too, we're talking about 8 years away, right? So you figure turf needs to be replaced after every 10 years. So we would potentially be accelerating that replacement a little bit than we would otherwise, which would incur its own costs as well, right? So there's an implication of that if you go down that road. The hope is that we're able to find a way to get this done without going there. But if we need to go there, we're going to bring that conversation and what would inevitably be a hard decision, right, back to the board.
I mean, you've worked with a lot of school districts. Is that typical to have the well field be underneath playing fields or places where students are gathered?
Yeah, as long as you don't have any intention of building something, a structure over where that's going to be, the well field, then a football field, a parking lot. Those are all viable options.
Okay, and there's no safety concern because of the integrity of the land over the well field that we should be worried about.
There's no safety, but there are some considerations during design on integrating with the current drainage system that you have. So those are all things that we're considering right now in our design. But they can actually be very good locations to put well fields.
And one thing I just wanted to clarify, in case there was any confusion, once we have the final design and locations determined after these tests, those will come back to the board for approval. So the board is not approving the whole project tonight, just the ability to do the first test so we can design the full project. So there'll be a lot more opportunity for input and a lot more definitiveness and answers as we progress through this process.
Why is it better to dig wells under playing fields than to dig them under the new construction, the project 2 new construction? I know that's a question people in the community are gonna ask.
When you say under the new construction, you mean under the building itself?
Yeah.
Because I think you want to have access to those wells if need be at any point.
We're talking about the green space where the well field is going, or under an actual.
Yeah, just it's what's the benefit of doing it in green space and in this case under a football field versus having it contained and isolated under new construction? We're going to dig down.
Understood.
Why not just drill the wells, under the basement of the new building?
I would say just from Michelle's point, just accessing the wells, you need to access the wells. Drainage is a big deal with these well field systems, so you want appropriate drainage through the wells, which is what we would design either in location. So under the building, I'm not sure what kind of drainage there would be under that building. There may not be appropriate drainage, but if you ever do need to access those wells under a building, might not be the best put spot. It'd be challenging.
But in your experience with school districts, have you ever had a case where wells have failed and you need to dig it back up and repair wells?
We have not. We have not.
Is that a thing in geothermal? Is that
It typically doesn't happen with the well field, and I mean, there's obviously some design considerations that you've got to take into account with it, but we've, as Gordon mentioned, Mattoon, Illinois, we've had a well field there for 25 years, never had to, you know, dig anything up and repair a well. And we've done, like I said, over 100 different well field designs.
Okay, so thank you for coming out and sharing your Thursday night with us. I'm sorry you have to do that, but on the other hand, I give Dr. Johnson and Mr. Arbogast credit for inviting you out. This is really valuable to have a direct conversation. And I love energy topics, so I'm really glad you're here. So just a few questions, and then I'm gonna maybe run past you my understanding of a few things, and you can either confirm or correct me. So the way you assess a building is 1,000 British thermal units per square foot. Is that right? And is that measured on a per day basis or annually? How do you do that?
That's on an annual basis.
And in our concept of a potential geothermal system here, are we expecting that it would need address some of the heating and cooling needs of just the Project 2 footprint or more of the building? That may be more of a Mr. Arbogast question.
Sure, yeah, it's, this has been, the first well field would be entirely focused on the Project 2 area. And then, we would, I think the long-term goal would be to then look at a way to scale this up to eventually cover our whole building. But that would need to be, you know, a more thought out process of replacement of mechanical systems and when to line it up with other renovations in the building.
And the reason this feels a little bit like an urgent issue is because we have Project 2 progressing, and this geothermal system would need to connect to the mechanicals of Project 2. So the timing is now to figure out if we would do it and do that planning together. Is that right?
Yes, it's essentially the simplest way to think about it is FGM is designing the building to for the mechanical system to come out similarly to a utility hookup, and then Verigy's geothermal system will come and connect and start the heating and the cooling.
And in terms of the energy process savings, so I think I heard is it a gut feel number that this could be a $4 million capex? I know we can't know that yet until you do the test well, but did I hear that right?
That was based on some preliminary numbers, more looking at the and again, this is where knowing the numbers and where the location comes in, because that would be like I said, a pretty high level preliminary estimate on the area between the mall and the track field. I would anticipate that number to change going into the football field and depending where in the football field it was located.
Yeah, and I get that. I think nobody's holding anybody to a capex number here because the only question in front of us right now is, should we commit to the expenditure of $165K, which may be recovered later, in order to drill a test well, which will then give us a sense of how big the system can be, how potent it can be, what its productivity is. And you've looked at our utility bills, electric and gas, and presumably you have a model that says Project 2 in the current status quo will consume X dollars of both gas and electricity. And a fairly robust Excel model is going to get built, I'm assuming, that is a return on invested capital that shows hypothetically an initial, let's call it 4 million for argument's sake, with a cost of capital compared against the long-term expected expenditures for gas and electricity. Am I correct to assume that after you get done with the test well, you do the assessment of those results, that robust model is going to get built? Is that accurate?
So typically when we look at a geothermal system holistically, meaning we are not just designing the well field, but we are designing the HVAC systems inside the building. Yeah, you're correct. We would look at, your gas and electric bill. We're gonna look at the installation costs. We're gonna look at the repair costs, replacement costs, everything to do a life cycle analysis typically over a 30-year period of time. So that we can determine, does this make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So typically, yeah, that is something that would be looked at to determine if this makes sense, right? As compared to a traditional system. I think historically, when we look at HVAC systems, geothermal ends up having the best life cycle analysis, but it's very dependent on every building, every situation. And I think now more than ever, it's, in the past, it's always been, even before this direct incentive, a lot of times it would prove out that geothermal was the best solution. When you look at it over a 30-year period of time, even without the incentive money. But now what's happening is that you factor in the incentive money, and now we're seeing systems that are as cost effective as a traditional HVAC system, just way more cost and energy savings. So
Yeah, I got an IRA question about that in a second. And you said the HVAC system, you're not, where does the line cross between your work on the HVAC system versus, I guess, FGMA or whoever's handling that right now?
it's basically the connection into the building.
Okay.
So a well field connects into the building from that point on.
Right, but you would work on that, I'm assuming, in order to help answer this question of what we think a reasonable payback is.
We would definitely be assisting in that design with this.
And the incentives, are they strictly applied to the CapEx, or is there some kind of ongoing? I think I heard, it's a 30 or 40% of the CapEx that you essentially apply for as a tax credit. Is that right?
Right, just the installation.
Okay. So the Inflation Reduction Act was signed in mid-2022. So it's a new incentive, or at least it's a new law. Were other incentives rolled into that? Or is that just something brand new that's layered on top of other incentives that presumably supported geothermal installations prior to 2022, since you guys have been doing this for quite a while?
Good question. So here in Illinois, really outside of this tax incentive, there historically has been a DCEO grant and an Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation grant. That was typically one that we would get on every project. It was a $90,000 grant capped. That anytime we submitted, we would get that, but that is no longer in existence. And so right now, the only incentive for geothermal here in Illinois is an IRA tax incentive, at least in the northern area. I think depending on, some utility companies may incentivize heat pumps, the installation of heat pumps, but right now, it's not incentivized.
And but presumably prior incentives weren't as big as what the IRA regulates. So that's a real kicker.
It is a big,
really,
big difference.
Yeah, really lit these projects up. And you will hold the district's hand as it pursues its IRA tax credits.
Certainly will.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually have a division that's strictly for grants and funding. So they're familiar with the federal grant programs, the local grant programs, and so we'll make the district aware of any other opportunities as they become available, and then yes, we will help you secure all that grant money.
So the funny thing about payback periods in 20 and 30-year terms, that's a really long time. It's a long time to be doing things like trying to project prices of natural gas and electricity. But you've been at this for a while. How many of the districts or other locations have actually achieved the ROI, and how many years is it typically taken?
So for geothermal, again, it varies quite a bit depending on the makeup of your building and what your goals are. It's hard to really say that there's one ROI that fits every.
What's the band like? What are some of the quickest ones you've seen, and what are some of the longest?
We've seen at 7 years, right? It's probably the quickest that we've seen. Some have been 20, 30.
Okay.
You really wouldn't recommend geothermal if you had a 5 or 10 year HVAC system to rip out a functional system and then switch all over to a geothermal system. Where we see the best bang for the buck is either when you're
system is antiquated and need to be fully replaced, and then considering the incremental difference between, it's called the baseline system and a geothermal system, or you're considering building a brand new mechanical system, then having geothermal be a part of that.
Kind of where
So
we
you're
are.
kind of at that kind of sweet spot of when to consider it.
Okay. And presumably part of this benefit is, we're gonna consume less total utility services in general, and then completely remove a need for natural gas into the project 2 area. Is that true? Tony?
Yes.
Almost done here, Tom.
You know, we should, want to explore this a little bit so that the 100% cooling, 60% heating figure that we've done it before, depending on all sorts of variables that haven't been defined yet. Leaves open 40% heating, right? That has to come from somewhere. And my understanding of this is that that would come from the remaining building, right? The existing building's ability to supplement what we get out of the geothermal field. So no new boilers, that would produce any GHG would be needed to fill that 40% gap.
May I just?
Yeah, just a couple more questions, but go ahead.
Just on that question, so that 40%, which it would be heating provided by the main building to building 2, project 2, correct?
Correct.
Today, that main building is heating project 2?
I need other folks in here to do that. Virgie probably doesn't know the answer to that. That it's the capacity of not the existing footprint for project 2, right? There boilers and things are in there that were going to disappear, right, as we build a new project 2. This would come from the old building, barring, capacity there. That's the information that we've been that we've gathered, right, from Gilbane.
Yes, I can verify that, but that sounds exactly, your interpretation is what I'm remembering of our interpretation of mine with that conversation.
Yeah.
So we have a mix, right now we have an electricity and gas mix. In a future state, we'll have a electricity, gas, and geothermal mix. And the presence of that geothermal is gonna reduce, to a certain extent, the amount of electricity and gas that we consume. Correct?
Correct.
Now, in doing this, you're effectively a design, build, operate offering, is that right?
Correct.
So that means that, do you end up with an ongoing services contract with us?
No, I mean, we offer that, we can, but typically it would just be your design and install, and then we would have a full year warranty on the installation. But if you wanted to engage in a service contract, we have that capability.
Okay.
It's not, it's not required.
So it's not really designed to operate, because you're not gonna have an ongoing role in the operation. Is that true?
Unless the district would like us to.
Okay.
It's not required as part of our contract.
And earlier in your presentation, you said your design team. But is it correct that you're handling all aspects of the geothermal up into its connection to the mechanicals of P2, correct? We're not doing, our other vendors are not playing any design role in the geothermal.
At this point, if you move forward with Verigy, we would be involved in just the well field itself to the connection of the building. And then I believe the district's current architect and engineer would do the remaining portion of the geothermal systems for the thermal units.
And is that usual and customary for most of your engagements?
No.
Okay, what is unusual and not customary about the concept we're thinking about here?
I mean, it's just, we've been involved in doing the entire design. So we've never been split up quite that way before, but not that it wouldn't work. It's just typically when we look at a system with a client, it's been soup to nuts, so to speak.
Okay, so share why we're not doing soup to nuts.
Sure. Really trying to think the best way to say this. This would be very complex to have a company go out and do the geothermal field and then build the mechanicals to put inside the level of construction that's happening with project 2. If it may make more sense if it was like if we were just doing a mechanical upgrade to that area and not the full construction upgrade. But given the level of design work that had already progressed through project 2, this would have had to make that work, it would have had to have been a determination really prior to the kickoff of project 2. It would have had to have been a known variable at that point. So when the opportunity was here to bring the geothermal in, it's not uncommon to have a performance company similar to Verigy work alongside your architects. Really, there's 3 models where you can work, exclusively with your architect, exclusively with a company like Verigy, or have them integrate as partners together. And that was part of our discussion through the RFP process, was making sure that we had found a partner that was willing to be a partner with us and make sure that we're all moving in the same direction to complete this.
Yeah, and while we've never split up the geothermal well field with the components inside the building, we've worked alongside architects a lot on various different projects where different components have been broken out, where maybe, the architect would come in and do a, chiller replacement, and, we're actually doing a different component of the building, maybe it was oil or some lighting or some different components. So we definitely have worked often with architects and existing companies.
So from that, are you saying you're comfortable with this?
Oh, absolutely.
So who monitors the guaranteed savings over the next 7 years before we ring that bell and say, this thing, is that you, is that us?
So we will come up with a measurement and verification specifically for the well field. Where we're gonna monitor the temperatures and the pressure differential so that we can guarantee the capacity that we're getting out of that well field. And so we would typically we include 1 year of that. Unless the district would like us to do more than 1 year, and we've done 20 years guaranteed before, it depends.
Okay, so otherwise it's gonna be on us to monitor and ensure that the guaranteed savings is achieved.
Right.
Okay.
But we built in 1 year, we built in 20 years short guarantee.
Okay.
It's dependent on each individual district and what they like to see.
In terms of regular inspection and repair, is that something we call you for, or who does that?
That's something that we can offer, or we can work with the district to identify local mechanical service.
Last question. So, Mr. Arbogast, we moved from an LOI to a construction contract. Did our attorneys review that construction contract inclusive of the Exhibit A?
Yes.
All right, thanks so much.
Do you have your 15 question?
No, I actually have 25.
There you go.
All right, so you might get to grab a cup of coffee and I'm just kidding. I have a couple of questions. I'm one of the board members who was here during our initial investigation of geothermal. And so I've got a couple of questions that come up from what was presented to us a year and a half ago. The first thing is, I remember that one of the great issues was the time it takes to dig a well and the amount of equipment available to dig those wells. And that seemed to have been at that time a bottleneck in terms of getting the project done and getting it done on a timely basis. All right, is that an issue with you guys? I mean, I know we're looking at, if you look at if we're good to go on the track site, you've got it divided into A, B, and C, and you've got something like 170 wells. I mean, is that gonna take a year and a half to dig, or are we gonna be able to do that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think depending on what we're looking at, I mean, I think even if it's, whether it's just the football field or whether it's the track, I think that can still be done during the summer time period. I think one of the components that we were looking at is the necessity for a vault, and that's for being able to connect to the building and then also account for expansion. That has a longer lead time, and but I still believe that we can make that work and not affect your typical class.
I just want to make sure that we would be on a timeline to be able to hook up to project 2 when project 2 is completed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Frank, a factor that was mentioned a year ago when we were looking at this, which is different than where we are now, is we were doing the top then was horizontal wells. And the limited availability of somebody who can come in and do that boring.
No, the limit, as I remember it, the limit was in the vertical wells, and that's why we were talking about having to do the horizontal wells.
I think that the okay, maybe I had that flipped, but I thought that the horizontal, well, let's not dig into that.
Right. I just want to make sure that from a timing point of view, all right, that the work can be done, it's not going to be disruptive.
Good question. Just on average, one geothermal rig can drill about a well per day. That helps also. We were trying to get 180 wells, may take 2 rigs, 90 days. We just need to plan accordingly for the number of rigs, or go and pay some money for that, so we're open.
Okay. The second thing is, and this kind of ties in with some of what Grandma was talking about, but kind of stopped at the building. Going back to those presentations that we had a year or so ago, the real financial benefit to the district, all right, was tying this in with solar and putting solar panels on roofs. And I remember that's where the financial savings came, and it was dramatic in terms of what the payback was, in terms of years of payback. Now, when a proposal comes back to us, all right, will it be inclusive of putting, of project 2 and or even the roof, which is set up for solar panels, on project 1, of what could be done by the use of solar.
So this contract would specifically focus on the geothermal well field.
Right, and this is more of a question for you, probably.
Yes, because as we investigate the integration of solar down the road, that would be a standalone project that would then bring either an amendment to expand the initial scope of the contract down the road, or a brand new contract itself. There's a couple different ways that it can be done.
Right.
But so the next contract that you see will not have a solar component to that contract.
Well, I mean, this may be part of more of what we're expecting out of FGM. But it was a part of the presentation that we saw a year ago or a year and a half ago, whenever it was. And that was, to me, was the intriguing part. Was the use of solar, because number one, it's cost savings, it also goes to the reduction of our carbon footprint. So I would, as a board member, I would like to see that, at least side by side, with their presentation as to, okay, this is where we can go with solar and putting solar panels up, and what that will look like from I would say both a construction point of view and a financial point of view.
Okay.
Mine is quick, I think. I'm an online board member, so I was here for the previous presentation. Tony, I assume that when you come back to us, assuming Teflon goes well, knock on wood, hopefully we get great results off of it and it's all viable. That we will see when we're asked to make the decision to go ahead or not, this cost and the, what you refer to as the base cost, or what it would have been with a traditional system, right? Can't remember what it's called it. Do you know what I mean? Like if we were not doing geothermal, just so the board can see that, you know, rather than like, here's the cost of the geothermal system, I wanna know geothermal minus base cost, what is the difference that we'd be paying, right? Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yes, I'm glad that you have requested that. It is not a comparison that I normally would have brought, but I believe I should be able to decipher that number and work with FGM and Gilbane. But I will need to follow up on that just to confirm if they've got preliminary numbers for a traditional system, because I don't know if that was built in the initial schematic design or not.
I mean, even if it's an estimate, where I find it helpful is in explaining to the community, right? And being able to say, you know, when they see this big number and the sticker shock number, that, you know, to be able to say to them, it would have cost us this much just to do the traditional system. So what we're looking at is this difference, and we're looking at it because of both sustainability and long-term cost savings, right? Like that's the argument. And so I feel like we need at least an estimated base cost number to be able to make that understandable, legible to the community, right? So thank you. And then my other question is just a quick technical question, because you made me curious about this difference between the 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet wide things. From what little research I've done in geothermal, we've understood that like if we're going through rock, it's more efficient. And if we're going through sand, geothermal may not be a great option. And my understanding is Illinois, we mostly have, you know, moist clay soil, which I think is pretty good. Is that accurate? I'm a gardener. I still regret that we didn't put geothermal in my house when we bought it. We thought about it, and we were not sure we were going to be here long enough to see the cost savings, and I regret it because now like I'd have to dig up my garden to put it in, right? And like everything's planted now, and it would have been better to do it when we first bought this. But
great question. I would say that the test results we received from a local test were very positive.
Yeah.
From just an overall average conductivity of all the well fields we've done. So we're hoping that test what we do on site will be very similar to that.
So we're looking for like dense moist soil.
But we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's actually a little cute. You have a local, define local. Where was this other well that we're using as a reference?
I think it's about a mile away.
It's within a mile. We
okay.
Don't know exactly where it was, but we've gathered some information kind of from our network of well drillers and said this is the conductivity to expect. So we're kind of putting that in our file, so to speak, and we hope to compare that with what you receive in the local conductivity test.
Well, and you kind of almost answered my second question. You're on a roll, which is, what is your network of well drillers? Because that was, again, that goes back to when we met on this topic before, and my memory is,
you're right.
There was one dance. There was one company.
Great point. So kind of behind Michelle, we can't see them, but there's a team of designers. We have kind of a network of geothermal projects, past examples of work, customers and contractors know Vergy and kind of how much work we've done. So they work well with us in the past, they understand the processes, so we're able to attract more union well drillers with our short supply these days. So we hope to kind of also advertise the project as a great geothermal project and recruit more well drillers to help us look at this project to be cost reasonable. So that's part of our job is to attract those well drillers and to recruit bidders. If that helps.
Three quick ones. Three more. I want to make it into two, and then I'll take contestant number 3. It's just for Mr. Tony.
Okay.
So we approved project 2 without geothermal, because I mean at the time we didn't have an end. Yet I'm kind of seeing the gap. Yet we're designing it, with connections for geothermal, correct? So I'm trying to see, there's a hole here, right? Not a hole in the ground, but if there's no geothermal, we approve project 2 and we got no heat?
No, if the board elected not to go with geothermal, the mechanical system would be redrawn to go to a traditional boiler and chiller system.
That's in that already exists or that is part of the new construction?
It would be new chillers and boilers as part of the new construction.
Okay. So then, with the geothermal, will there be any space differential, space benefits? From a building standpoint?
Yes, I mean, that's one of the bigger benefits of a geothermal system is that now you don't have to find space for the larger boilers and the chillers inside the building. And so, you know, in existing buildings, we end up creating a lot of storage space because of that. So typically you've got the well field, you've got your terminal units, which are the heat pump units, and you've got a couple pumps.
Storage space, or that yoga, that room would be, right? Is on the roof.
We do consider.
Yeah. And my last one is timing, because the fact that we would have to wait until the completion of project 2 really to commission this is what I'm hearing. And I guess the question is there any way that it could be commissioned earlier? I don't know, I'm just asking because that 2026 is a long time from now, when you're looking at funds. Is there, I mean,
I mean, we'll look into that, but yeah, I mean, as we know it right now, I don't know that unless if you build a well field first.
Yes.
And, you know, can you, what you're asking is, can you submit for at least that portion of it, right? And our knowledge right now is maybe no, until the rest of the building units are, but we'll.
Yeah, what defines being commissioned? I mean, if it's even if it's that the building is partially constructed, but it's, you know, the heating system is in place, I don't know, it just.
We got team tracking kind of the IRA and IRS rules, regulations, and we have a similar project where we're doing a solar PV system on the roof while the rest of the roof is being remodeled. So we might be ahead of the remodel with the solar system, we may be tying into maybe a quick tie-in, turn on, turn off situation, maybe we can consider that here, but we'll look into it.
Thank you. I got. Everybody want a second round?
Just one quick point of emphasis, you know, when I referred to a robust economic model, it touches on what, I mean, it was basically saying what Harry Raj said, which is that you can only say that this system is paying for itself if you compare it against what would have otherwise been your cost of electricity and gas that was offset by the geothermal system. So that model is going to have to exist for us to pull the trigger on this.
Yes, and I do agree. I was thinking of the
Well, I think it's 2 parts, right? It's the ongoing cost of, you know, running the building, but I was also asking about the build costs for building the system versus building the.
And when I say robust economic model, it means a return on invested capital model.
Yes,
Where we take into account the CapEx, you apply a discount rate and a cost of capital, and you model that out. So it definitely is holistic. It's both the CapEx and how operational savings pay back that CapEx over a certain period of time. So I'm sure you get what we gotta do.
Yes.
Okay. And it seems like there's a little bit of uncertainty around, you know, the IRA money is just starting to get spent. But it sounds like maybe a little more confidence that yes, this IRA money will still be available when we go operational in 2026. Maybe a little more investigation there.
Okay. So that completes our questions, and we had a motion and that has been seconded. So I am asking to call for a vote. Okay? One action item.
Ms. Lee, Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Mr. Guzman,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Dr. Harwich,
Yes,
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
And Mr. Ross.
Yes. That's a pass.
thank you.
Those keeping it for it all.
You had a lot of homework.
You do
Right?
not stay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay,
Graham, I appreciate that you knew like the technical terms for what I was asking for.
okay, that was a combination of that was artful.
Yeah,
Because
that was great.
I was hearing it. Okay, our next topic is for Bob. Board goals and governance. There's only one action, and that is I have the ball now to assign individual board members to those areas that are so designated. I've got a rough draft, but I'm not done. But I would expect to do that in the next week to two. So for our next meeting, I will have that. I'll send a note out to folks, but that's the action. That's it. Unless anyone else would like to talk about this for Bob.
Since you're bringing in audience members, I think Dr. Fiorenza really wants you to discuss.
No, but we know that this one is.
Oh, Dr. Sanders is really excited too.
But she's never expressed such a keen interest. Okay. Okay, our next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Question, not to revise the board doc goals, etc. But when does the strategic plan get revised next?
We will be bringing that to the board. Our team was just had a marathon meeting about that on Tuesday this past week. Right now, it's scheduled to go to the board at the regular meeting in January.
Soon.
Okay, it may be,
No, but
that's where it's penciled in right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well.
Okay, the first quarter variance report is in there for information purposes. And we have a quick review of any updates on district, community, and or state reports. So superintendent, student advisory.
No updates. Yeah, there are conversations we've had about student potential participation on the board as one of the board goals, and kind of how that unfolds will greatly influence the direction of that council. So
I got it.
I can move their meeting to tomorrow, so we don't have to report yet.
TFC is not met.
Not tomorrow, Saturday.
Yes, yeah, I was thinking the word.
Saturday,
Yep.
sorry.
CFC has not met, although we do need to provide the board goals to CFC. That was a request. That's going that way. CCB.
Jonathan, you want to?
Sure. So we continued our new the new structure and process of bringing a singular issue to the CCB committee to brainstorm over. These issues, these topics were generated at the beginning of the school year, just prior to the first, at the first session of the CCB, the new CCB committee's first meeting. And this last week we discussed, took a deeper dive into looking at the continuum, how we can better connect
our various schools, school districts, and look at it as a broader continuum. And so we had a rich discussion around that. I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to add, Tim.
Thank you. Apple, that's Audrey. Yeah, and she, okay, sustainability is not met.
That's this last
Facilities,
meeting next week. Hasn't since the last meeting.
community council,
We had an excellent presentation from Nicole Epson, Alicia Hawkins, and lots of really good kind of community feedback and questions. So those two, give me a minute.
okay. Boosters,
They have not requested our presence at anything since, so.
applause,
I think we're waiting to see how we reschedule.
Yep.
Participation.
and alumni.
Yeah, the Alumni Association met on Monday night. They will have the annual bill will go out by Thanksgiving, for donations. We had a presentation by Noe Gerges, who's a fashion design student, a recipient of one of our grants, who spent a 2-week class at the School of the Art Institute. She brought in her design that she made. It was really incredible, the work that she's done. So they're a very talented young woman. Let's set the budget for the summer enrichment grants for this summer. We know that there's no school sponsored trips going out, but there are some other trips, non-school sponsored trips, so there'll be up to $35,000 awarded. And then there is a special trip a week or so before spring break. It's an art trip to New York, where I believe 40 students will be going to New York City to various museums. It's awesome. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. And there was a robust conversation about financial support for that. So we, or the Alumni Association, will be supporting that trip up to $10,000. And we will be asking for the leaders of that trip to submit how that money is distributed on an equitable basis, according to our policies on that too. Then we got into the sesquicentennial celebration. There will be an alumni showcase, so that will be fun. And of course, we all know about the block party on May 19th that everybody's looking forward to. And basically that was about it. So that's where we stand with the Alumni Association.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Two others. One I would love to have added to the list, and that's the Forest Community Collaboration, which is back in action. We met last week. We'll meet again in January. The conversation there was actually really interesting. Two sort of topics that were of interest to all of those entities and that we had talked about. One was the migrant crisis, and it really is. The park is grappling with that. Obviously, the forest is anticipating that the crisis is going to cross Harlem, and a lot of conversation about how to be ready and what to do, and so I think that's maybe a topic that that this board ought to entertain in a more robust way. The other topic that all of the forest entities were interested in, and it's reached them in one way or the other, was the Moms Demand Action safe gun storage issue that is spreading across that community as well. So I know that is going to come back to us soon. I also attended the OPRF Scholarship Foundation meeting last week. Is that?
No, good. I had that noted as well as one
Okay.
that should be on our list.
Yeah.
It's on our, it's just.
Yeah,
it
Greg
is-
and I attended, and Sarah Spivey is still on that board as well. It's nice to see her. And it was fascinating to begin to get up to speed of all the work that they do. It's a tremendous lift every year. And it's an enormous amount of detail and work that board does. So that was a terrific meeting.
You know, Tim, I just wanted to add, I really appreciate you sharing that impression. After that meeting, talking with Mr. Arbogast, who's witnessed it for the first time as well. I had the exact same reaction, just overwhelmed that something like that exists here, much less exists with so much organization and energy. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, with that, any future agenda items? You kind of hinted at one, Tim, so do you want to formally put it as a future agenda item or?
Yeah, somebody help me flush this out because the migrant crisis that has come to Oak Park is not going away. This is not this is not a single moment. And I think it's likely to get ever larger crisis going forward. It's going to involve teenagers coming to our community that are going to need our support in this build. And I know that we are ready in a lot of ways. I think that the way that it might rise to the board level is if we need to expand those supports in some meaningful way.
Okay. Would it be appropriate to speak to that topic right now, or should I pause that?
Sure.
I don't want to break protocol.
Well, I mean, I think you're just trying to provide some clarification.
Yeah, just some context.
Right.
Because it's a hot topic.
Yes, okay.
Is that we did, back in 2017 and 18, we passed a resolution of making that the district was a welcoming district. So we may want to pull that out and dust it off to see exactly what.
Yeah, that was in the spring of 17, we were talking about that.
Right. That we see exactly what it was that we passed and what they.
Yes, that's a great point.
I think the welcoming district things were both. They're both saying about not reporting to ICE, if I'm remembering right. I think we're talking about something more extensive now, but it's good to know what we passed previously.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of information to share, but because it is so important for our community right now, it's a good opportunity to get some context. So, first, the community of congregations came together with a meeting last Friday afternoon. And I was fortunately able to attend that meeting. And the overwhelming thrust of that conversation was about the need to get organized. Everybody is jumping in and willing to say, hey, we can help with this, we can help with this. In earlier conversations, we talked about everything from, coat drives to providing support with food, utilizing our resources here in the school community, volunteer or otherwise. That really wasn't the press of the focus right now. It was how do we get organized so that folks know how to access the resources that are happening in the district, in the community. And so with that in mind, I left that meeting with, for the moment right now, a clear focus for our district. Make sure we are supporting our students to get registered in this district. And then once they're in the district, do what we do, right? To do what we can to support them. That really is our charge in the moment. We actually have one student already enrolled in this school from just what we saw the last 2 weeks. And we anticipate somewhere in the single digits, 5, 6, 7 more students in the next week from what we're communicating with the village. The village is doing a really nice job communicating with us through our student services office and Ty Garland, our community outreach specialist. So that really is where we are right now as a district. As more information comes and as this evolves and changes, I'll be happy to give the board more updates. But that's really where we sit right now.
Thank you. And then actually, you know, we did go through the different reports and you mentioned Room Forest, but you know, Greg and I participated in the Oak Park Council of Governance and this was the topic, so.
And just to, I mean, so I've been involved in the volunteer efforts ad hoc for about at least a year or so now, but I think right now where we are is this transition from ad hoc volunteer emergency efforts to systematized work, right? And people are really stepping up, and I'm hopeful that we can maybe be a model for how to do this. So.
Okay, very good. Any other new business? So I mean, I think there's that I guess, let me go back. Is your request is it a topic for?
I don't think it needs to be.
For board discussion or
this, no.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to clarify that. Any new business? I move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?